أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي رب صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. What is a woman? This is the question being asked today in the Western world. In this hyper-technological society we live in today, which has turned its back on the most basic and obvious self-evident truths of human biology, where today we are questioning the most basic self-evident common sense truths. I'm interested in this question tonight. In this same question, what is a woman? But approached from a different angle and a different dimension. Because we all know what a woman is at a biological level. Beyond biology, the question is, what is the essence of a woman? What is the essence of womanhood? What is the essence of feminine psychology, feminine energy? What is the essence of the feminine process? Why do we call Sayeda Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam the doyen or the leader or the chief of the women of all the worlds? And how can Sayeda Zaynab alayhi salam, who tonight we come to commemorate her birth date, how can she, alayhi salam, the daughter of Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam, guide us to what a woman truly is? So this talk of mine is especially geared toward the sisters, but also the brothers, to benefit from an understanding at a deeper level. Now, let me cut to the chase and give you the answer I have arrived at from the outset, rather than keeping you hanging till the end of the lecture. The essence of what a woman is, of what it means to be a woman, to be feminine, to embody the fullness of feminine energy and feminine psychology, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala intended it, is the following. A woman in her essence gives birth to new realities, a new life, following a three-stage process: receiving, internalizing, and transforming. A woman receives a clump of cells, internalizes them into her womb, and in the process of receiving and internalizing this clump of cells, gives birth to new life. A baby, human being is born. A woman receives raw ingredients in the form of groceries, internalizes them in the form of a vision or a plan of what she will make with them, and in the process they are transformed into a nourishing meal for her family. A woman receives the pain and hurt of her child, whether physical or emotional pain, internalizes the pain, feeling it in her heart and body, and in doing so transforms it into a love that heals her child. This is the essence of what it means to be a woman. It is to embody the threefold process of receiving, internalizing, and transforming in order to give birth to new life, to new ideas, to new realities. A man will live in a house, and the house will be very practical in nature. He will have a bed, a table, some chairs, maybe a lounge and a TV, a fridge and some basic food items. The walls of the house will be bare, and everything in the house will have a practical purpose. It takes a woman to transform the house into a home. It is a woman who will add life to the house, colors, accessories, adornments. As she receives the raw material, the house with its walls and the rooms and the amenities, as she internalizes a new vision for the home, for the house, and transforms it into a home, a place of warmth, of love, where a family can grow and a man yearns to return home to. In its highest and healthiest expression, womanhood, femininity, feminine intelligence, feminine psychology, feminine energy, the feminine process, follows this threefold stage: receiving, internalizing, and transforming, to give birth to the new, to something greater than what it originally received. The feminine gives birth to something that is greater than the sum of what it receives. This is the genius of the feminine when it is uncorrupted and is operating according to the fitra, the basic design of the Creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in understanding the essence of womanhood and femininity in its highest expression, as ordained by the Creator, we turn to our beloved Sayeda Zaynab alayhi salam, the daughter of Imam Ali alayhi salam, and Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam, the sister of Imam Husayn alayhi salam, and Abu Fadl al-Abbas alayhi salam. Sayeda Zaynab alayhi salam, al-Aqila, noble and wise, al-Alima, the supremely knowledgeable, al-Kamila, the perfect woman, al-Fadila, the virtuous, Ummul Masa'ib, mother of misfortunes, the one who was there witnessing firsthand the horrors of Karbala, witnessing death, destruction, mayhem, and misery, the epitome of human evil and savagery, witnessed by Sayeda Zaynab alayhi salam when she was 55 years of age at the tragedy of Karbala. Sayeda Zaynab alayhi salam, who witnessed the betrayal of her brother Imam Husayn alayhi salam, except for his small group of loyal companions. Sayeda Zaynab alayhi salam, who witnessed the effects of the deprivation of water and who had to console the women and children of Imam al-Husayn's camp alayhi salam, as well as calm them from the terror when they were fleeing, that they were feeling as the enemy attacked the camp. Sayeda Zaynab alayhi salam, who witnessed the heartbreak of her brother Imam al-Husayn alayhi salam, who was without support and helpers. Sayeda Zaynab alayhi salam, who endured the death of Imam al-Husayn alayhi salam, al-Abbas alayhi salam, their children, and the martyrdom of her own two sons, having to pass by the severed bodies and the severed head of her beloved brother Imam al-Husayn alayhi salam. Sayeda Zaynab alayhi salam, who endured being placed into captivity and paraded through the streets of Kufa and Damascus, and seeing the girls and women from the family of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi enduring the same. Notice what Sayeda Zaynab alayhi salam did with the tragedies, the calamities, the enormous suffering that she witnessed and endured. A level of suffering that would drive any human crazy, literally crazy, insane. And I say literally crazy as a clinical psychologist. These are experiences that would drive any other human to the point of complete emotional and mental breakdown, of literal insanity. What Sayeda Zaynab alayhi salam did with the tragedy and the calamity that befell her and her brother Imam al-Husayn alayhi salam is she received them fully and completely with full acceptance of Allah's will. Stage one of the feminine process, she received them completely with full acceptance. 2, she internalized these experiences with the depth, within the depth of her feminine wisdom. Second part of the feminine process. First is reception, receive. 2 is internalization. Internalizing these experiences, embodying her feminine intelligence, courage, wisdom, dignity, and grace, and in fully receiving and internalizing these horrific experiences, Sayeda Zaynab alayhi salam expressed the highest human form possible of the feminine essence and intelligence. She transformed these experiences. Third factor of the feminine process, transformation. She alayhi salam transformed these experiences and gave birth to the ultimate victory of the Shia of Ali alayhi salam and Imam al-Husayn alayhi salam. While the Umayyads sought to abort the lineage of Banu Hashim, the line of Ali alayhi salam and Fatima alayhi salam, the Aylid line, and blot the physical presence and memory of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam from history and from memory, Sayeda Zaynab alayhi salam was able to take this tragedy. I want you to focus with me. She was able to take this poisoned arrow aimed at destroying Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. She was able to take this poisoned arrow and turn it through the process of receiving it, internalizing it, and transforming it. She was able to turn it into a new life, a new seed planted to ensure the survival of the Aylid line, the progeny of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi and his Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Ma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Through her stance, she stood between the enemy and Imam As-Sajjad alayhi salam, who was laying ill in the camp, ensuring the enemy did not kill Imam As-Sajjad alayhi salam, and in so doing, Sayeda Zaynab alayhi salam ensured the continuation of the line of Imamat. Sayeda Zaynab alayhi salam perfectly manifested the essence of what it means to be a woman under the most horrific, intense, stressful, and calamitous conditions. She perfectly received these experiences with the acceptance of a woman in complete submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and with a strength of tawheed like the tawheed of her grandfather Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa ali, her father Imam Ali alayhi salam, and her mother Sayyidat Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam. Sayeda Zaynab received, internalized and transformed the tragedy of Karbala, giving rise to the eventual defeat of the Umayyads and their despicable dynasty. In her speeches before Ibn Ziyad and Yazid, la'anahumullah, Sayeda Zaynab alayhi salam exposed the illegitimacy of their leadership. She exposed their moral depravity and their cowardice. She exposed the short-lived nature of their apparent victory, quoting the Quran to them. Those who disbelieve should not think that living longer is good for them. They are only given more time to increase in sin, and they will suffer a humiliating punishment. Ali Imran, Ayah 178. Sayeda Zaynab alayhi salam, in recounting the horrors of that day, gave birth, the feminine process, gave birth to the tradition we, the Shia of Ali alayhi salam, hold on to till this day. Mourning and recounting the horrors of that day, keeping alive the memory of Imam Husayn alayhi salam, and in so doing, holding on to our contract, our covenant with Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, to love and honor his Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Sayeda Zaynab alayhi salam was able to take the experience of Karbala to receive the first part of the feminine process. She was able to receive the most calamitous event in human sacred history, the greatest tragedy to afflict Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, a tragedy that shook the heavens. She was able to take this experience, to receive it, and in the fullest expression of feminine intelligence and wisdom, she received it, internalized it, and transformed it from a poisoned arrow aimed at the heart of Islam, who are the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, transformed it into a new seed, a seed from which new green shoots sprang forth, the green shoots of the tree of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, the purified and holy tree made of holy and divine light that cannot be destroyed. Sayeda Zaynab alayhi salam was the vehicle Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used to transform this poison which was aimed and intended to kill and destroy Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, and through her extraordinary capacity to embody and manifest the perfection of the feminine essence, the capacity to receive and to internalize and to transform what is received and give birth to new life. Sayeda Zaynab alayhi salam embodied the perfection of the feminine essence. Like her mother, Sayeda Zahra alayhi salam, who also embodied the perfection of the feminine essence, Sayeda Zaynab alayhi salam is the great transformer of Karbala. She's the great transformer. Sayeda Zaynab alayhi salam is the one through whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prevailed over his enemies. Just as it is through Sayyidah Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam, the feminine process, that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa ali prevailed over his enemies through the progeny from her blessed womb, held and gave birth to after receiving the divine light from Imam Ali alayhi salam. The nur of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot be extinguished. It cannot be destroyed. Try as you may. Allah's nur will prevail. And these are the nur of Allah, Muhammad and Ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali. So as we pay our reverence and show our love to our spiritual mother, Sayeda Zaynab alayhi salam, to the sisters who will watch this online, inshallah. Sayeda Zaynab alayhi salam is your spiritual mother. Sayeda Fatima Zahra alayhi salam is your spiritual mother. Sayeda Khadija alayhi salam is your spiritual mother. These are guides that you can access, living guides. This is not just history. You can access the spirit of Sayeda Zaynab alayhi salam. You can ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to appoint her as one of your personal guides, that you can receive guidance and she can act as an intercessor for you, so that we can all experience the enormity of her light as we gather tonight to celebrate her birth date. The enormity of her light, her luminosity, her brilliance, her magnanimity. So rather than reciting a list of beautiful attributes of Sayeda Zaynab, but they're unconnected, what I have given you tonight is a model, a process for you to understand, my brothers and sisters, the feminine essence is embodied in a threefold process that Sayeda Zaynab alayhi salam perfectly manifested. She manifested it perfectly on the human plane. You cannot beat the way that Sayeda Zaynab alayhi salam manifested this. It is perfect. It is as perfect as is humanly possible, in the same spirit of her blessed mother, the supreme saint of all the women of the worlds, Fatima Zahra alayhi salatu wassalam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. O Sayeda Zaynab, you shone so bright, and you keep shining your light. Count us, O Sayeda Zaynab, from amongst your Shia. O Lady of Light, O daughter of the leader of all women of the world and of paradise. Great was the calamity you bore, fully received by you, internalized and transformed into the brightest of light. The light of Ahlul Bayt shining so bright. Count us amongst your followers, O Lady of Light. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Brothers and sisters, thank you for your attention. I wanted the talk to be short and sweet so that we're not exceeding the attention span, but I'm at your service, whatever the organizers want to do, whether there's questions from the audience or externally, I'm at your service, brothers. Rather than me talking for another 20 minutes, I'm at your service. I'm your brother here, Abdul Hamid. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. La ilaha illallah. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Jazakallah khair, dear Dr. Abdul Saad. Indeed, it was beautiful, that analogy, the poisoned arrow intended to aim straight at the heart of Islam, and yet that arrow, that poison, was turned into the medicine, the cure, the antidote which ultimately saved the religion of Islam, which preserved it for all of these years that followed. Had it not been for the sacrifice of Imam Husayn, the sword of Karbala, and for the bravery and courage of Sayeda Zaynab and Imam al-Sajjad, the voices of Karbala, Islam would have died completely. For her love and for the love of all our beloved shuhada of Karbala. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Inshallah ta'ala, with that, we'll proceed to the question answer session, which will be conducted by our dear brother Saeed. Please welcome him with a salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
It has been an honor listening to your speech, especially as a clinical psychologist.
Thank you,
We
sir.
can see new perspectives now with more
Alhamdulillah,
trust.
Thank you.
So the first question here is that how are women in our day, especially in the West, and this is spreading to the Middle East as well, take inspiration lessons from Hadra Zaynab alayhi salam and convert it, transform it, and go through the three processes and give birth through the guiding light to our time, adapt her lessons to our time, understand it, follow it, and spread it. How are they going to do it with the toxic environment that they're living in?
No. Yes, brother, thank you. And these questions have come from the sisters or? From the brothers, okay. All right, alhamdulillah. So, if we look at the model I presented, so the first, it's a threefold process. So, to receive, to be receptive, to internalize, and then to transform. So if we look at it at a very practical level, the first step is to be able to receive. Now, to receive something, I have to have the capacity to receive it. If I have a glass of water here, I need to have a glass, and it can't be full for it to receive water, right? I need to have a vessel. So what is the vessel through which we receive? Well, it is the intellect, but it's also the heart, the qalb. So the first step, whether for a sister or brother, but we're focusing on the sisters here in terms of the feminine process from an Islamic perspective, although I've grounded it in psychology as well, but we're speaking here as Muslims, so we can be relaxed. We don't have to be following some sort of westernized model. We're speaking here within our paradigm as Muslims and as Shia of Ali, and we owe no one an apology, right? From that process, what we have to do is protect the organs that receive the inspiration and information. So if it's the intellect has to be protected. It has to have has to be guarded from polluted stimulus. So if you think about Sayeda Zaynab alayhi salam, clearly her ability to manifest these virtues and perfectly manifest this threefold process of receiving, internalizing, and transforming means that she was a perfectly, and I use that word in a relative term as a human, at the human level, perfectly purified, because any contamination could not have resulted in the pure expression of this process, right? So the first step is self-purification. And self-purification doesn't have to be something too philosophical or mystical. So the first step is to purify yourself. You say, how do I purify myself? Well, it begins with physical, right? If you're drinking 2 liters of Coke every day and eating takeaways and junk and you're minerally deficient, it is going to be hard for you to manifest this virtue, because part of it is you need your physicality to be purified. So as much as possible, eating cleanly. See, very practical. I'm not going to tell you do 1,000 rak'ah, do 1,000. That's not my area. I'm not a scholar of Islam. I'm not a mawla or sheikh. Eat clean. Drink clean. What you expose yourself to, especially brothers, we all know what we're talking about, visual stimulation that corrupts the mind and heart. For the sisters, certain role models, influencers, Instagram, right? So the first step is to keep the organs that receive inspiration and guidance pure. It's like if my glasses now were foggy and stained and fingerprints on my mud, I couldn't see the brother here in his beautiful face. Has to be clean. So I did clean my glasses before I came, right? With dish soap, as the optometrist says, and cold water, right? So the first step is we have to purify ourselves practically, what we're consuming in online media, what we're consuming physically, our practices. So people say, I don't feel khushu' when I pray. I say, don't worry about that. Khushu' will come. You can't control it. Pray on time first. Set the intention. And even if in the prayer you drifted off, that's okay. The purity of the intention, the fact that you're showing up and you're on time and you're making your prayer a priority. If you are consistent with that, you will be rewarded with the khushu', but not according to your timeline. It's not like you take a pill, then you feel it. No, you have to be consistent, then you're rewarded. You'll have the breakthrough. So we have to purify ourselves. We have to be aware of what's getting into the system, the contamination. I hope I didn't take too long in answering the question, brother. If you want me to be shorter, let me know. If there's like 30 questions you got there. Or
yes, there's a number of them.
Okay, I'll try to rapid fire answer then.
Thank you for embellishing on the answer. Thank you.
Okay, sir.
The next question is all music haram, such as for meditation purposes, soft music? What about for training, exercise? What about Islamic films?
Okay, so this is the area of jurisprudence and fiqh. It's not my area. I can give you my personal answer, but I don't want that to go on the record because that will be broadcast, right? So I'm going to exit my lane in answering that question. I'm going to stay in my area, right? You have to consult your marja, look online. Who do you do taqleed of? It's pretty simple. Google will tell you. Look up the marja's website, type it up. Again, if the person wants to ask me personally off the record, but it's being recorded, and I don't want people to misrepresent or say, Brother Abdul Hamid said that. I'm not a faqih. Okay?
The next question is, how can we grow as a community with so many internal disputes and divisions?
Okay.
This is not very related. I will move to the next one.
Okay.
What is the background and significance of Hadrat Sayeda Zaynab alayhi salam, her second journey to Syria?
The background and significance, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that.
And the next question is
If you could maybe let me know what you want specifically.
I'll tell you. They're asking how the grave of the Sayeda Zaynab in Syria changed the hearts of the once cruel Syrian people.
Well,
History.
Yeah, the once cruel Syrian people. What I would say in general is whether Sayeda Zaynab alayhi salam is buried in Cairo or in Damascus, there's no one knows, or Medina, some say, that because it's a site in her name, this is a sacred site. It has sacred energy. So all of these sites that we visit when we go on to ziyarah, right, have sacred energy in them. These are holy places. Yes? So sacred sites have a power to transform and to heal that cannot be explained scientifically. This is called non-linear. Linear is, I take an aspirin and we can know how it works. I drink a cup of coffee, okay, it's blocking the adenosine receptors in my brain. That's a linear. I can empirically explain how it works. Non-linear is, I went for ziyarah, my son had autism, wasn't talking, I went visited Imam Ali alayhi salam, went and visited Sayeda Zaynab alayhi salam, and subhanallah, a miracle happened. That's non-linear. So these holy sites do not conform to the normal laws, the linear laws that we operate in. That's why they are sacred and mystical and miraculous. They transform the pilgrim to another level of consciousness and awareness if that pilgrim is going with the right intention. I learned this when I went to ziyarah, that there's an etiquette. You don't just go straight to the center and start asking for your requests. You have to do the permission of dukhul. There's a dignity. It's not just at your service. You know, the Imam alayhi salam is there to give you what you want. No, that's not respectful. There's a solemnity. There's a dignity. There's a sadness. It's like if you went to a funeral, right? There's a particular way of behaving. So these holy sites, wherever they are located, whether in Syria, whether in Mashhad, have immense healing power, not for everyone, for the person who is at the same vibration as the site, at that same level. There's a match. Many people go, nothing happens. It's because you're not at that right frequency. You didn't purify yourself. You didn't clarify your intention. It's a lock and key system that's invisible. If you're at the right vibration, then you get a connection. But this is non-linear. I can't give you a recipe what to do. It's to do with the heart and purification.
Thank you very much for that beautiful answer. Very systematic. The next question is, in this day and age, what can one look for in this culture, in a spouse that resembles and is embodied, such as that in Hadrat Zaynab? So the closest woman you can find to her spiritual mother, as a spiritual mother. What to look for?
Well, I think if we follow the model, the first one is a receptivity, and feminine receptivity. In the context of marriage, a young man getting to know a girl, there would be, and again, I'm speaking in generalities here, a level of warmth, a level of softness, a capacity for patience, a capacity where the young man and young woman, if there's a misunderstanding, it can be clarified. There isn't this harshness. There's a level of forgiveness, because for a marriage to work, even the Western psychologists will tell you, there has to be forgiveness. If it's transactional and you did this and I did this and this is in the contract and I'm going to go talk to my dad, it's not going to work. Now, forgiveness and being patient, when we talk to our sisters, that in the past has been misused as if your husband is abusing you. Be forgiving and patient. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying forgiveness and patience in the normal interpersonal day-to-day life. There's misunderstandings. Someone might say the wrong thing. That's not malicious. But we always have to preface, not in the case of malicious abuse. No. Sometimes being too forgiving might be very costly if you're being abused. But we're talking about general social interactions, relationships. There's a misunderstanding. We need to have the ability as both men and women to say, hey, you know what? I know what you said didn't land well. I'm hurt. Can we talk about it? What did you mean? Versus immediately taking a position and getting offended and feeling hurt. And this is for both men and women. Now, the way to overcome that is for young men and women not to see relationships as a power struggle. This is the corruption of the modern Western model. Western doesn't mean Christian or Jewish. This secular liberal model, everything is about power. Who's got the power? Who messaged who? He messaged me. After 1 hour, I've got to now wait 4 hours because maybe he thinks I'm into him too much. And he got me this, so I'm not. It's all about power. It becomes a game of chess. That's not a relationship. Relationship is, hey, I like you, you like me. We both love Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Let's talk. Let me meet your dad. We shouldn't complicate it, right? Boy likes girl, girl likes boy. But when we make it a game of chess, and sometimes the parents of the girl force the young man to play a game of chess, thinking they're being smart, asking for huge dowries. In the end, the guy is building up all this resentment. He's jumping through all the hoops. He gets the girl in the end. Then that resentment is going to come out somewhere in the marriage. So the fathers and mothers have to be wise here. This is not a game of chess. It's not about power. This is not about economic transactions. Right? We have to get real as a community and let young men and women also find spaces where they can interact, man. Right? If every single thing is segregated, then they're going to be forced to interact on Instagram and on Facebook Messenger. There has to be halal spaces where young men and women can meet, can see each other, if we don't want them to fall into haram. So the community has to have practical common sense that is in alignment with the Islamic principles. We need to update some of the ways we do things because it can do more harm than good. That's my personal opinion anyway. All right? I think the brother here is liking what I'm saying.
So, what I understood in the end is that if we made unneeded obstacles and complications to be following the West's footsteps in gaining power,
Yes.
this will create deeper downstream, deeper complications, which would need, which is unnecessary.
And both boys and girls fall into the trap of power. For the boy, no, I can't say I love you, or I'm not going to buy you flower because that's weak, or I need to be an alpha male. Alpha male. It's like, so, and then the girl has to play all sorts of games to say, do you love me? And then the girl, it's like, also can withhold affection, or it becomes one big game because we're disconnected from our fitra. Fitra is, I like you, you like me, right? Let's talk. Let's see if we can make this work. Versus submitting to the Western paradigm of it's all power. That's why they say now, men need something called game. You need to have game. Game means you need to be able to play chess so you can checkmate the girl and deceive her to get something from her. And she's also looking at you as what's he doing, what's his play, what's going to happen. So the connection and intimacy is destroyed because the relationship has become a commodity. What am I going to get from this? What are you going to give me? But what are you going to give me without me declaring what I want? Because then I'd look weak. I have to put on this strong facade. And then that's a lot of the girls now. And then the only guy that can break through that facade is a guy that is borderline psychopathic. Because the guy that is a bit naive, he's not going to be able to do it. He doesn't have game. Right? You see how we're being destroyed? Okay.
Do you mind if I add another element to, not add, but
Sure.
ask another element to that?
Yes.
So what if when you're used to playing these, these basically
Mind games.
mind games, political games,
Right.
whatever, not just with the woman, but with all your friends, all your relationships. What if you're just used to that and it's become a custom? How do you fix that? I mean, because you're basically living a life that's meaningless. So you're just playing a game throughout.
Right, right. Well, someone that's living that life as they get older, it's going to be pretty miserable. You're going to be lonely. You're going to not have fulfilling relationships. So, with anything in life, it has to be painful enough for the person before they will fix it. A person has to hit rock bottom. But they can't be told. You can't tell someone you need to change. Human beings in our nature resent being told that we're wrong. So sometimes we may give good nasiha to someone, but it has a counterproductive effect because we trigger the ego. We don't like to be told we're wrong. So we also need to have more sophisticated ways of approaching people by first of all acknowledging that whatever they're doing out of innocence. It's worked for them. They've adopted it. It's giving them a payoff. But maybe you want to consider what are the disadvantages now, and are the disadvantages outweighing the advantages? We have to talk to people in that way, in a human way versus in a scolding, condemnatory way, which says you're a bad person. Right? Yeah.
Thank you, and I'll just complement your speech with that Islam saying that single thing you do in your house, or a good thing towards your wife or mother or daughter or sister, there is hasana. For example, if the man says to his wife, I love you, he will get a lot of thawab, and she will never forget it, and it will go to her heart, as well as other things as well.
Yes.
So yeah, Islam goes with being I guess open as well as strong, right?
Correct. They're not, for a man to be loving and kind, he's got to be strong. It's not one or the other. And the sisters want strength, but kindness as well. Whereas with a lot of the brothers, if they have the strength, it's hard for them to be kind because they see it as weak, right? So the girl is. Then a lot of the girls go into the fantasy of I'm going to be the one that softens him up, but And then the problem the guy has is he can get the girl because he's got the game, but once he's got her, he doesn't know what to do with her. He can't touch her heart. And the guy that would be able to touch her heart and be more romantic often doesn't spark as much attraction initially as the guy that can't touch her heart but can attract her. So for the young brothers, the good guys in the community, you do need to learn how to develop a bit of an edge. Because what's happening with a lot of good young brothers is they say, I get rejected, it's not working. Well, in part, you've got to take responsibility for that, because you do now have to be a little bit more aware of your presentation, how you speak, understand a bit about female psychology. It's not the same as 1990 or 2000 or even 2010. There are more difficulties now in the environment we live in, but for the men, that means you need to upskill. You need to see it as an opportunity to have a bit of an edge without being toxic. Right? But look sharp, dress sharp, think sharp. Give yourself the best odds if you want to get married and have your pick of girl that you like, right? Inshallah.
Just one thing on that. I think just wanted to add an example to that. It's kind of like something sweet and savory, looking amazing. It gives you benefit in the short run, but in the long run, you keep overindulging.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Something that's not so attractive, it can be really beneficial in the long run.
Yeah, I think we have to balance that, because there has to be some level of attraction. Because as a clinician, if there's no attraction, you see these people end up in marriage counseling. So it's got to be a balance. I think crazy levels of attraction tends to create troubles long term. But at the other extreme of the bell curve, if there's no attraction, that creates as much problems. So there does have to be a level of physical chemistry. It is a prerequisite. It's like yeast. You need some yeast for the loaf to rise, right? You're not going to be able to bake a loaf of bread without yeast. That's that spark of chemistry. We need that spark. It's not the full loaf of bread. It's the yeast. Okay.
Alhamdulillah wa shukr on these beautiful answers. There is this question in this day and age. Oh no, I was already asked that. Why didn't Hazrat Ibn Ja'far alayhi salam go to Karbala with Bibi Zaynab?
I'm going to plead ignorance on that. I have no idea. I'm not going to be ashamed to say I don't have knowledge on that area. Alayhim as-salam. I don't know.
Half the knowledge is saying I don't know when you don't know. So that's you got guaranteed. And I believe it was because Imam Husayn wanted him to stay there. He needs Hadra Zaynab to go with him so that she can, as you said, internalize, transform, and give birth, as well as spread that guiding light.
No.
And he had also an important position as well. So this is the last question on the paper, but I have another question for myself. Is our lips going to be sealed in the day of judgment? For example, would I get ashamed that my Lord has sealed my lips or has shown me my deeds? Will my lips be sealed, for example? Possibly.
I have no idea, brothers.
Not related.
You have to give me questions in line with my specialization. This is even beyond fiqh. This is in the area of Allama Tabtabai, rahimahullah, beyond me.
And this is my question. We as men or women, how can we learn from Her Majesty Hadrat Zaynab, as well as Fatima Zahra alayhi salam, as well as the other women, where the Prophet said only 4 women became complete? And as you know, women, when they get complete, they're not like men. Men think straightforward. When Fatima Zahra alayhi salam talks, one thing can address hundreds of things at the same time. And that's how women think, and she's complete. And I had to see it to believe it, that God actually created such a thing. And as you know, it came from heaven. Like, it is so special. How can we, as men or women, learn from Her Majesty Hadrat Zaynab alayhi salam, to transfer this, internalize, transfer, and give birth from this toxic environment, which is against religion, against any religion, to be internalized, transformed, and to be adapted in our time, to be given to our logically thinking brothers and sisters of our time, and to be in line with what Imam al-Mahdi salamullah ajalallah farajah wants.
Yes, brother. Thank you. There's a few thoughts there. One thing I would encourage people to, when they read the biographies of the infallibles and of Sayeda Zaynab alayhi salam, like I did today, I didn't just list a collection of historical facts and just say Sayeda Zaynab was courageous and wise and forbearing. What I did was I connected the core principles and I gave you a process that applies to all women. So we have to learn, when we're reading the Quran, when we're reading biographies, to look at it from what can I extract from this that applies even beyond the historical analysis. In Arabic, it's called a malakut interpretation. What's the archetype? So if you look at the story of Nabi Musa alayhi salam, you can focus on it at the historical level. There's Fir'aun, there's Musa alayhi salam, there's Bani Israel, they cross the Red Sea, Fir'aun is drowned. Okay, fine. But if you just go above that and take a more of a higher view, you say, okay, what is the process here? Process thinking. There's a tyrant, right? There is a people in captivity, and there is a leader that leads his people out of captivity. That story applies to you. You have an inner Moses that can liberate you from captivity, and you have an inner Pharaoh and an inner Yazid that is keeping you in the captivity of sin. And you need to liberate yourself. See? That's the higher interpretation. You might read the story 1,000 times. Oh, wow, Pharaoh was a bad guy. You didn't apply it to you because you're not thinking in terms of principles and the archetype, the pattern recognition. You read the biography of Sayeda Zaynab 100 times. Okay, she was very courageous, very wise. And you've been to the lectures. It doesn't give you as much of an in-depth hit where you say, how does this personally relate to me? Extract the process. Nabi Khidr and Musa alayhi salam. Okay, master and apprentice. Even if you have a lot of knowledge, there's still someone more knowledgeable than you. Right? I've given you a few examples. How to think from a process perspective. What's the process here that applies to me? What's the pattern? What's the archetype? What's the theme? This is a way of thinking that we now need to introduce into our religious curricula. How we think about this material. Not just reading the history at the level of history. Does that make sense? Okay.
I think that's kind of, it relates to you a little bit of there's a concept called information overload.
Yes.
Just learning and learning.
No.
But instead, like, if you find something that stimulates you in some example of your life and gets you to change.
Yep.
I think that's
If it's personally relevant, you'll learn it more. Yeah. So these are ways of critical thinking that the new generation of youth and scholars need. Critical thinking, so we can develop a more advanced level of consciousness, because we have the raw material in our school of thought, school of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, for immensely powerful ways of changing the world. And we see that now on the political and military front with what our people can do on the world stage. Because they took these seeds and transformed them at a higher level and applied the aqidah to practical problems that have created tangible physical solutions on the ground. Like the liberation from occupation in my parents' homeland, Lebanon. If you relate that back, it comes back to the Aqidah of Ahlul Bayt applied in a contemporary way to our times with fresh thinking. And you find the people that are not in alignment with that, I'm speaking a bit cryptically here, look at things at a very flat level. They're just reading text and can't go beyond the text. They're lacking the abstract ability. In psychology, we say concrete thinking. So you have to train yourself to become an abstract thinker. When I tell you we can extract from the life of Sayeda Zaynab a threefold feminine process of receiving, internalizing, and transforming, that's abstract thinking. You have to train yourself to think abstractly. That's what distinguishes you from an animal. An animal can't have abstract thinking. You can, right? I'm happy if there's any more questions, or from the floor, any live questions. We have an audience here of brothers. All good?
Just one thought I had with regards to that, like targeted areas of
Yes.
religion which can help you
Uh-huh.
adapt your behavior.
No.
I think today what's like especially important for the for the youngsters, probably maybe developing an app or something which can help with that. I think
Yes. Yes, an app or a workshop or a course where we perhaps look at the stories of the Quran and of the Ahlul Bayt and apply a process-based approach, a process-based analysis, rather than a purely flat historical analysis where we're recounting details in a very linear form, but we're not personally relating them. So they're of limited transformational value. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So the answer for me in conclusion
Yes.
was abstract thinking. So I'm going to have to learn abstract thinking so I can read history, so I can read the stances of the holy ones and the prophets. And yes, that is possible if we have someone as an example of abstract thinker who tells us how to examples of abstract thinking from the past.
That's right.
And that is, of course, our ulama, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, yes, that's one. And the other thing is the process of modeling the behavior of people. That modeling means, what is it that these holy ones did? What did they practice? Emulate them, model them in the behavior. For example, the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how did he eat? What did he eat? What you'll find is, as you purify yourself, your diet will start to mirror more the prophetic diet. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You'll start to eat honey, dates, fresh fruits. As you are less pure energetically, as a general rule, you're watching things you shouldn't watch, you're staying up far too late, you're not praying on time, you're going to be more attracted to what's called lower vibration food. Right? Takeaways and all the snacks and that we now must boycott as Muslims. These are made by multinational corporations. And they're made to make us addicted. Has anyone ever been able to eat one Dorito when you open a Dorito packet? Can you eat one? Yeah. It's actually engineered using brain science to give you such a dopamine high that you have to eat the whole packet. So if someone says, how do I purify myself? I actually don't tell them, go do a whole bunch of tasbih. I say, what are you eating? First, cut out the food made by godless multinational corporations designed to hijack your brain chemistry. And once you cut them out for a couple of weeks, your dopamine levels reset and blueberries begin to taste like Skittles. If I have blueberries now, they literally taste like Skittles to me. They're so sweet because I eat zero processed sugar, right? If I'm eating sugar, right? So the key thing is overcoming addiction. And we're all addicts in our society. It's an addicted society. It's all about making you addicted to something, which is to be enslaved by Pharaoh. And you need your inner Musa, alayhi salam, to remove you from enslavement. Especially for the men. This society is geared to making men weak and addicted. So you want to fully manifest the fullness of your masculinity, you can't be addicted. You have to have the choice. Okay, I'll eat this little bit of thing, but I don't have to eat the whole thing. But there's certain things They're manufactured to be addicted. You can't just have a little bit. You can't just watch a little bit of that material. It is addictive. It destroys your masculine core in your brain. And what Imam Husayn alayhi salam teaches is your self-respect above anything else. Let nothing or no one rob you of your self-respect. And you know what the bonus is when you start to look at this perspective as a young man? You become instantly more attractive to females, because females are very intuitive. They pick up on energy. You don't have to have any game or any of that. You're a man that's in alignment with your faith, with your prayers, with you're working out, you're eating clean, you have a vision. Man, that's masculine energy. That's really attractive. And you say, no, I don't do that. I don't watch that. I don't indulge in that. That makes me weak. I'm the Shia of Ali, alayhi salam. That's not for me. I respect myself. You'll become incredibly attractive. And you know what else? You will literally have zero competition. Literally. Because every guy walking around is addicted to this stuff. If you've got a problem with this and you work on it and you smash it, say no more, you will literally be in the top 1% of your age group. You look at most guys walking around, they're zombified. They're addicted to the phone, to the fast food, to the this. It's a society of addicts. I don't say that to make people feel bad. It's engineered that way. It's engineered that way. Right? Addiction is the crisis of the secular world, because we have to fill this emptiness we feel with something. Notice when you're spiritual, you don't feel addicted. Any addiction you have goes when you feel spiritual, because your heart's open, you're in flow, you smile, you want to talk to people, you become loving. And then the addicted side comes out, that shadow side, that Yazidi side. We all have it. We all have it as a potential. You're not a bad person if you have it. It's something that you need to overcome. And if you have struggled with this, you're not a bad person. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a plan for you to set you up for a spectacular transformation, because addiction is a gateway for spiritual transformation. Do you know that? The only thing that cures addiction is spiritual and religious transformation. There is no medical or psychological cure for addiction. Only because it's a process that's only cured spiritually. Right? So I don't want you to feel bad. I want you to be inspired. This is something you can overcome. And overcoming it isn't you're going to be a superhero and overcome it in one day. You might say, you know what, man, 2 days and I succumbed. Okay. Make it 3 days. Okay. Make it 4 days. Okay. Make it 1 week. Oh, succumbed again. That's okay. Reset the counter. Get back on the wagon. Back on the wagon. But you have to have a reason for why you want it so badly. You have to have a vision of your higher self. If you have that vision that inspires you, I promise you, you will eventually be gifted the breakthrough by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Why can't you do it if other people have done it? Other people that aren't as smart as you, that don't have that weren't born into the faith of the Shia of Ali like you were, don't have the resources you have and they did it. Imagine you, my brothers and sisters. All right, I went on a bit of a tangent there maybe. Thank you, brother.
Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Jazakallah khair once again, our dear guest, Dr. Abdul Saad. Truly amazing and interactive. Inshallah ta'ala, as we work towards improving ourselves in the future, we can indeed overcome these addictions. You know, it requires a progressive mindset as well, as far as what we mentioned earlier, looking into technology that can help facilitate this improvement. Inshallah, we can work towards that as we build and improve individually, inshallah, as a community as well.